This is Valley View News.
There were major upsets at the Grammy as Esperanza Spalding beats Justin Bieber for Best New Artist.
Wait, who? Oh, that's me.
President Obama's budget proposal is immediately criticized by Republican lawmakers.
$1 trillion reduction is insignificant.
And the NAACP has marched in North Carolina against resegregation of public schools.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Mandy Gosling.
And I'm Allie Carnett. China has overtaken Japan to become the world's second largest economy. Its gross domestic product now sits at about $5 trillion. Japan held the #2 position since 1967 when it overtook West Germany. China's rising economy still trails far behind the U.S. economy, which is 3 times larger, but wages in China remain low. More than 100 million Chinese citizens live on less than $2 a day.
President Barack Obama has proposed budget cuts that would reduce support for higher education. The cuts would add up to $89 billion during the next decade. Obama says the proposal prevents some students from getting 2 Pell Grants in a year. It also cuts a program that lowered interest rates on graduate student loans.
I'm also convinced that the only way we can make these investments in our future is if our government starts living within its means. If we start taking responsibility for our deficits. And that's why, when I was sworn in as president, I pledged to cut the deficit in half by the end of my first term. The budget I'm proposing today meets that pledge.
The Education Department says the changes may reduce spending on higher education, but it will raise spending for kindergarten through high school by almost 7%. With this semester's tuition increase and more yet to come, some students at California State University Northridge have made it their mission to bring change. Julissa Reyes has the story.
You need to make changes here, right now. So join up, March 2nd, we are walking out.
CSUN students are organizing what they call a teach out in defense of education on March 2nd.
ASC's goals this semester are to turn March 2nd into a meaningful day of action. We need to turn it into a movement. We can't protest from 9 to 5 and expect things to change.
The Activist Student Coalition says students need to be responsible for asking hard questions about how funds are being allocated at the federal, state, and university level. But CSUN Provost Harry Hellenbrand says the problem goes beyond economics.
I think it's not so much an economic issue as an issue of values. What do we value most? Do we value the young? Do we value the next generation? Or do we want to flip a house and make a profit today? Those values have to do not just with education, but with how we look at society as a whole. And I think we need to understand that for republics to work, you need the constant involvement of the people.
With this semester's tuition increase, students like Carly Johnson say that their financial situation has not gotten any easier.
So I receive federal aid for my tuition, and because it's gone up, my aid doesn't cover all of it.
In the midst of demands for affordable education, there are those like CSUN economics professor Shirley Savorny who think California government should focus more on business expansion than on higher education. Savorny argues that higher tuition will ensure that only students who are truly committed to college will pursue a degree.
You know, I've been here over 30 years, and there's just a lot of students here who aren't taking advantage of it at all. And so I look at that and I think if they had to face the real price, they would change their behavior, and we wouldn't have a lot of resources that are being wasted.
Though students will be demonstrating for affordable quality education on March 2nd, student activists say this is only one piece of a broader movement.
People in the streets do make a difference. We're learning that in Tunisia and Egypt, people in the streets can depose dictators, and people in the streets here can definitely demand better education.
For Valley View News, I'm Julissa Reyes.
North Carolina protesters have rallied against ending a program that used student busing to achieve racial balance. School board members put an end to the 10-year-old plan. The dispute over the diversity policy has drawn national attention. It has received criticism and complaints from the U.S. Secretary of Education and the organization's Office for Civil Rights. The national president of the NAACP attended the rally and compared it to the demonstrations during the civil rights era.
A cave exploring trek in northwest Georgia has killed 2 University of Florida students. Medical examiners are determining the cause of death of Michael Pyrie and Grant Lockenbach, who died in a cave in Walker County. The 2 were part of a group of students exploring the local mountain wildlife area. Walker County Sheriff Steve Wilson says Pyrie and Lockenbach broke away from the group to explore on their own. The NoHo Arts District boasts that it has one of the highest concentrations of live theater and recording studios in the country. Valley View's Joe Galley reports on one theater company that is bringing experimental art to Los Angeles.
Small independent theaters are helping to revitalize parts of the San Fernando Valley and are helping to expand the Los Angeles reputation for theater arts.
This is not that important. Would you like to go lie down?
Oh, I really would.
We can talk later.
That's a clip from The Flu Season, a play by Will Eno. The play is being put on by the Red Brick Road Theater Company.
Coming up with a title at all. The Flu Season. Just put a sign of human civilization, like standing up straight, not eating worms. It's not something I can really take credit for.
Dan Anik performs in the show and says how experimental this play is.
Basically what it is a dream state where you know you're in a play, but at the very same time, you don't know you're in a play. Because we're giving you the illusion that your mind is actually incorporated with us, going through the process we are, when you never know who the story's really about, who's the main character of the story. What you do know, though, is everyone's going to get hurt, you will laugh a little, and everyone ends up falling in love in some way.
To help us live more empathically, more heroically within the life-size form of our own familiar pain? No? Splendid, I will duly note that.
Christine Macedo has been working with the Red Brick Road for several years.
You sort of get stuck in your own life and your own point of view, and things like theater help you see outside of that and help enlarge your own world. So I think it's very important for people in this community to see a different point of view.
Some of the theaters in the NoHo Arts District are backed by grants from the City of Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs. They provide support to artists and neighborhood arts-based organizations to help revitalize parts of Los Angeles into thriving art communities. It's not just theater that is being used to help revitalize North Hollywood. There has been billions of dollars invested in public transportation and housing. But audience members would agree that live theater seems to be NoHo's crown jewel.
I think it gives it a little bit more style and ties it in a little bit more with Hollywood.
For the chance to get on the phone, twirl their hair, and talk to you.
Well, what if the person you're saying is going to call wrote down the number wrong? And what if he lost the tiny slip of paper in? And what if he was lying when he said he was going to call in the first place?
The Flu Season runs through the month of February. If you'd like more information, you can go to theredbrickroad.org. The NoHo Arts District is easy to get to for Angelenos and tourists thanks to the Red Line subway terminal at the core of the Arts District. Back to you in the studio.
Cellos, violas, and violins are some of the classical instruments most people know. But what they probably don't know is the art behind making the instruments. Dina Betancourt has the story.
First, a couple of notes, then the tune, and before you know it, you are hearing some of the most beautiful sound produced by a violin. But even before the music, the sweet symphony sounds begin with something more like this. What many don't know is the work and detail put into the making of these instruments. Staff members here at Robert Cower Violins know exactly what it takes to make a fine instrument. Harrod Williams, who is the head of the shop, has been working with Cower for the last 28 years. Williams says that the work and detail put into the instrument makes it that much more valuable.
Any one of us could start working on something and crack, whatever it may be, and I could go home and someone could come and just keep on right after me because we know the step by step, we know each one step.
Cower's violins range anywhere from $1,000 to $100,000. The most valuable ones are kept in this vault. Longtime violin maker Robert Cower has been in the business for the last 30 years. Cower has gained recognition in LA for making, repairing, and trading violins.
I remember the first time I had a Stradivari in my hands started shaking and I put it quickly back onto the table. That was a long time ago.
Cower's violins are made out of maple and spruce grown at an elevation of 5,000 feet. The bow is made out of horsehair and the strings are made out of steel. Many of these rooms have a humidifier, such as this one, to keep the wood at a certain humidity level to prevent the violins from cracking or becoming loose. As Williams explains, a violin begins with the bass bar on the top of the instrument and the bottom of the instrument. A peg is constructed to hold the strings. The violin is clamped together for 3 hours. A bridge is created to adjust the string height.
That used to be all done by me. I used to work alone initially, and now I have, I think, 9 people helping me. in the shop. I couldn't do it alone anymore. I'd be in big trouble.
In Hollywood, I'm Dina Betancourt for Valley View News.
Coming up after the break, the stock market fluctuated as Obama announced the new budget proposal.
Also, we'll show how celebrities hit the town and celebrated music's biggest event.